Following the sacking of Thomas Tuchel, Graham Potter has been appointed as Chelsea's new manager on a 5-year deal, leaving his role at Brighton to take the position. We now welcome in Frank Leboeuf to talk more about this. Frank, I'm interested to know whether you like this move and whether you think it was the right time to get rid of Thomas Tuchel.
It's always sad to see somebody leaving, especially so early after seeing him winning the Champions League. A year after, but it already happened in the worst effect to Roberto Di Matteo as well. I think it was like a couple of months after winning the Champions League. So it's like usual for Chelsea to be able to sack many coaches and try to be successful as well. You know, it's better sooner than never or later. But Chelsea needed to react. And make sure that they go back on track and make sure that they get at least in the fourth position in the league. Graham Potter seems to be the guy. I'm happy to see somebody not with a big resume, somebody who has to prove at the biggest level, but somebody with thoughts in his head, and willing to do everything to do better for the club and also better for himself. So I'm very interested to see how he's going to work. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Chelsea changing the way they play, being more vertical. And I think Graham Potter is the right guy for the right time.
Just picking up on what you said, though, there, Frank, obviously this is a completely different team. Yes, he's had this great stint at Brighton, but now this is Chelsea. Will the players respect him? Is this a risk from the board?
I don't think it is. I think the players, well, if they look at themselves in the mirror, they realize that they didn't do well. So Tuchel has been sacked because of his decision, but sacked also because of the poor performances of the players. So the players, they know that, and they need to react. And also they will have to please Potter, because there are more than 11 players in the dressing room. So they will have to seduce him in order to be on the field on Saturday and Tuesday or Wednesday in the Champions League. So there is no time to think through and say, oh, well, you know, that guy is completely unknown, I'm a big star, he will have to play me. Because alongside the guy who think that, you have 20 other players who think the same, or who might think the same. So I think everybody have to be ready for big competition, and Potter's going to be the man. And they will have to make sure that they work hard to be in the first 11. Otherwise, they're going to be on the bench.
As for the manager, though, Shaka, you wonder how long he will be given to try and implement his style and his ideas on this side, because we've seen already under this Bowley era too, patience isn't too long.
Yeah, well, temptation is to say, well, he's got 5 years to prove his worth to the club. But under Todd Bowley, it's business as usual. We wondered what Chelsea would look like in terms of their approach, given the change of ownership. We knew what it was under Abramovich, and we just wondered what direction Todd Bowley would take it. And he's been quite clear in that announcement. For me, the sacking of Thomas Tuchel makes no sense unless you are piling all the failure of Romelu Lukaku on Tuchel's doorstep, unless you're adding in the fact that he couldn't get the best out of Timo Werner. I know it wasn't his signing, but then the easy speculation was he would get the best out of him, and clearly didn't. Other than that, it makes absolutely no sense. We've sat here all season and said Chelsea need a striker. They get one in, and in less than 90 minutes, Thomas Tuchel or less than 90 minutes with that striker, Thomas Tuchel is out the door. So from that footballing perspective, it makes absolutely no sense. For Graham Potter, I think it's a good signing, but the one caveat to that is football management is such an inexact science. Just because you are doing brilliantly at Brighton doesn't mean that you'll do as well at Chelsea or one of the big clubs. But it is the most valuable of proving grounds. That and European action to me. If you can take a club, a smaller club, and compete in European football, I think that is as clear an indicator as you can get. Of course, Brighton didn't get any European football, but just the style, the method, the way he did things at Brighton makes him worthy of at least taking that gamble. And Chelsea have clearly put themselves in a position where they now have to make gambles.
Will it translate, do you think, Stevie, what we've seen from Potter at Brighton? There's no doubting that he's a talented coach, but is it bad timing for him? It's been a stumbling start, and now there's European football thrown into the mix too.
Listen, you never get a job like this at the perfect time. You only get a job like this when things are going awfully wrong. And yes, the perfect time for any manager would be at the end of one season, so he can have pre-season, but he won't have that. But at the end of the day, and I think I said it yesterday, Thomas Tuchel got the Chelsea job because he was supposedly a great coach. Everybody said he was a difficult guy to get on with. Well, Graham Potter's a great coach. We know Graham Potter's a great coach. We know that Graham Potter can win games in the Premier League with the best of them. And we know he's actually a good guy. He's very amiable, and he does get on with people. So, yes, if you look at the resume, it's a gamble, but it's not really. You're talking about a guy who knows the Premier League inside out. This is not a case of going and getting somebody who's been coaching in Russia or France or wherever. This guy knows the league inside out. He knows the players inside out as well. Now, yes, when you train with players, you see things that you don't normally see when you're playing against them. But he knows everything about every single one of them. So why can't he put this team together? He's got the chance.
Except managing a superstar ego. It's one thing knowing the Premier League, but then when it comes to managing big egos now, that's going to be a whole different part of it, isn't it?
Well, managing big egos is about your own moral compass, what's right and what's wrong, and you stick them to that. And half of managing big egos is knowing what you're talking about as far as what's going on in the field. You know, happy player's not going to cause you problems off the field. So if you can get your job right, which he can and will, I'm sure, then you're not going to have all these other problems. So I think this is a great appointment, and I'm sure he'll do well.
Speaking of big egos, we do have a World Cup winner, Frank Leboeuf, with us. Frank, what do you think of that aspect of things? That obviously he's going to be managing much bigger name players now.
Yes, of course, but I don't think you have to separate stars and megastars. Megastars, it's Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Ronaldo, which I understood that it was very difficult to manage because you really have to build the team around them. I don't think there is that type of player at Chelsea right now. Like I never felt, when I was in the dressing room that I played with Zola, Gullit, Vialli, Di Matteo, Marcus, and so many others, Dennis Wise, they were stars. But I tell you, when the coach was saying something and they were bad, they knew that they were bad, they put their head down and they didn't respond to the coach. So I think with the team I see, I don't see any problem coming from the players towards Mr. Potter, because I think you have players who have to prove everything again. And I have to say that, yes, we live in a world of emergency, but there is also time to build something, especially a relationship, and to make sure the team is better. Because right now, again, if the players look at themselves in the mirror, they're not good enough. And I think Potter can say that the first day. It's not good enough for the talent that you have. What you presented to the audience and to the fans is not enough. So everybody with me, we're going to move forward and we're going to work together. And if I have a big star and think he's better than anybody else, he's going to be on the bench because I don't care. I've got 5 years contract. And you're going to listen to me.
Speaking of fifth and five and the number 5, he's still fifth favourite with this Chelsea side to finish in the top 4. What would success look like to you, Frank, considering the timing he has come in?
Well, it's never late, and I said that before. Maybe the sacking of Tuchel makes things change, and we see that everything can put any team in trouble. You know how Liverpool's going to react after the loss against Napoli yesterday or Tuesday. So we'll see. How it's going to work for the other team as well. So Chelsea has a time to react, and yes, it's possible to finish in the first 4. No doubt about that. The season is still long, but there is a time to react, and it's now.
What do you think success is for Chelsea this season?
Success is quite simply top 4. And I'll go even further to Frank's point. There's only 6 games gone this season. We are talking about a team that had finished 3rd last season. There have been changes. There have been problems. If he comes in, gets into the top 4, even somehow manages to keep the top 1 or 2, depending on whether Liverpool can figure themselves out, within touching distance, I think that is an incredible return for Potter in what is, a season we're not quite sure what to make of Chelsea.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.